Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Debbie Field. At 2 minutes, Debbie, go ahead.
Like Bill Johnson, and I suspect all of us in this room, we want you as counselors to balance your budget, and I certainly don't want my grandchildren to face the kind of debt problem that the United States or Canadian governments have done. Perhaps if there's any time, you could ask me what I think you might do. But I'm actually here to do something else, which is to thank, first of all, the city manager for an excellent recommendation when it comes to grants. It's great in the 4 months since we were last looking at these recommendations that the city manager is not making any recommended large changes to most grants. I also want to thank all of you city councillors who are sitting through this process, and especially those of you who've changed your minds on grants. And I really want to thank all the deputants in this room and in the other rooms who keep coming down, because this has been just the most amazing example of popular democracy. There is, however, 2 serious recommendations that are flawed that I really hope councillors will reject. My name is Debbie Field. I'm the Executive Director of FoodShare Toronto, and if you currently take the recommendations that the City Manager has, 2 of our programs would be cut. One, because it is so small that we only ask for $10,000 for you, because it's all run by volunteers. And the other one, the Good Food Program, because it has grown so much over the years that your money has allowed us to leverage a huge amount of money from all kinds of other funders. So you've done very well in noting how important grants are to the life of the city, that they're as important as police and physical services, but there's 2 problems still that I hope you change between now and when you vote for this budget.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
And the 2 services, I'm gathering one of them is the student nutrition program.
No, one of them is called Food Link, and it was actually the first program created by FoodShare in 1985 when Mayor Art Eggleton founded it. And it's a information line. People call it all day long to ask where they can find a food bank or a community garden. And over the years, we've moved it from being run by staff to being run by volunteers, which is why it has a very small staff component. Many of these small programs, I think you've heard of this before, that are 10,000 or less are almost always all volunteer-led. The other one is something called the Good Food Box and the Good Food Program, which is actually one of the most innovative programs created in the city of Toronto, replicated in 61 cities across Ontario now, and it is a budget of $2 million. But yours is the only core funding along with the United Way that we get. And so if you cut that, you potentially create a disaster.
Thank you very much. Councillor Vaughan.
I just want to further explore the relationship between small grants and legions of volunteers and just how that works, if you could unpack that for us.
For sure. The Hunger Hotline, or Food Link Hotline as it's now called, is answered on shifts that are 3-hour sessions. And right now, all those shifts are volunteers. And so the only staffing costs are for a few hours of coordination of those volunteers. I think what you heard over and over again around grants is just how much leveraging happens from the grants that you have when you invest in organizations like FoodShare and the other community organizations.
So if you put in a grant for $40,000 and hired people to do it, as opposed to use volunteer labor, you could be exempt from the cut.
Yes.
But that would be fewer volunteers doing the program. Why do you need volunteers doing that program? What's the value of getting volunteers engaged in food security?
Well, I think you heard some of the volunteers who spoke in here today. They've often used food banks or food programs, and they really know how to answer those questions extremely well.
So they also get job training out of it.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Councillor Carroll.
Yes, Debbie, just I'm thinking down the road here, because I'm hearing today some sympathy towards CPIP and the nutrition programs in your hit. If we save you now and then in November we launch a budget where perhaps we propose a 10% cut to things like student nutrition cuts, we got a real crisis on our hands then?
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard for us, and you heard this from Bill Johnson before me. We're not politicians. I chose not to run for city councillor. I'm not facing this terrible burden that you are facing. It's very hard for us to sit here and quarterback it. My little bit of understanding from where I sit is that most of the cuts that you're looking at are in 10% of your expenditure. And I think it's very important that you keep going with the direction that you're going in these last few meetings, where you're really thinking through the implications of not cutting these programs, which do so much to keep this a livable city and a city in which people want to buy housing.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Mr. Budget Chief?
Thank you. I'll bite on your comment about suggestions.
I've been thinking a lot about my neighbor who is a senior citizen, and I know that she's been in that house for 59 years. I know she cannot afford a huge property tax, but I think there are ways of protecting her and still letting me have a larger property tax. I think there are all kinds of really clever ways that you can cap property taxes for some of the most vulnerable, some senior citizens. I know you've done that in past years. I think you should be studying ways that you can introduce taxation measures that will have differential impact. We are a city-state. This is almost like running the province. There has to be a combination of property taxes and income taxes. You have to, as Warren Buffett is just telling the President of the United States, you got to make sure to ask those who can afford to pay.
Thank you. Yeah, Councilor Mammoliti.
Follow on that note, I would imagine that property tax based on income would be the preferred recommendation.
I think you're not. I don't understand about the Municipal Act. You can't do that. But I think. But I know for sure that you can.
That's
but,
the point I wanted to make.
I know, but I'm pretty sure. I seem to remember it from a few years ago. One of the great things that's happened here is you look at how mobilized we all are. Why don't you have a whole process where we actually look at all the creative ways that you can raise revenue that doesn't hit the most vulnerable?
Go back to the seniors, because that was
right.
the point.
I think you can protect seniors.
Tell me how, because it's very restricted at a municipal level.
Again, I'm not a lawyer on this, but I'm pretty sure there's a way for you to give a differential amount for people under a certain level of income.
Not without changing the act provincially.
Well, then maybe we'd all be supporting you on that.
Well,
I think we should be going to the provincial. I don't think we should be going. I disagree with people keep telling you should be going to the province for everything in the money. We have to cost share.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Ms. Fields. Hello, how are you? So, some time ago, I had asked a previous administration about a support for a 1 cent or 1% sales tax that would be a city tax that would generate revenue, and it was shot down miserably. Wasn't support for that. You're suggesting that that's something that we should be looking at with respect to conversations, especially during a provincial election?
What I think has happened here, which I mean, I'm actually really proud of you as city councillors and really proud of the people of the City of Toronto. We have seen an unprecedented mobilization. I think there's a lot of interest in the majority of these voters in the city.
Sorry, there's a conversation that's going on, interrupting our speaker.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Let me start your time over.
Okay.
I'm going to start up. Councillor Vaughn. No. You have been interrupting Councillor Mammoliti all day. So please, Councillor, please. You're a visiting councillor here. Thank you. So we're going to start over again, okay?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Did you wish for me to answer the question?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
The question, or are you okay with it?
No, I'm good. I think that what we've seen in the last few months is real popular democracy and civic engagement. I think you've had more people involved in coming to these deputations and meetings than we've ever seen. If the mayor would like to invite us as taxpayers to work with the city on a new taxation solution for Toronto that had a variety of ways for you to raise money, not just cross-the-board tax increases, you would get a great, sympathetic response from a lot of us, and we'd be right there with the same energy we've been doing coming to these meetings to talk to the province about that. It is time to figure out, as Bill Johnson said, a sustainable funding model for a great city that doesn't involve drastic cuts.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. James Green.